When you think of a judge in a courtroom, you think of someone that should be the very best of us. Someone who has given their life to seeing law and order maintained, and a person helping to hold the delicate balance between order and anarchy in check. So, when a judge turns into a criminal, it only helps to erode the trust in the institution and can open up a Pandora's box for every person that faced said judge and was punished by them. But while anyone, including a judge, can commit a crime, Judge Jaques Delisle holds the dubious distinction of being the first Canadian judge to ever stand trial for murder. This is the story of Jaques Delisle and the case of the murderous judge. Jaques Delisle seemed like your typical retired man. The 75-year-old had served as a judge for most of his days, obtaining his law degree at the young age of 22. He would work his way up the legal ladder and become appointed to the Quebec Superior Court in 1983, before moving to the Court of Appeals in 1992, and it was here where he would spend the rest of his career until retirement. During his time on the bench, Judge Delisle saw a number of high-profile cases, but one that stands out the most for people is the case of Micheline Vaillancourt, who was convicted for murder in 1995, in the death of her husband while he slept. Judge Delisle sat on a panel of judges who overturned the verdict, stating that the woman had reason to believe that her husband was going to kill her, and that she saw murder as her only way out of a dangerous and abusive relationship. Judge Delisle was well respected among his peers, and served honorably until 2009, when he retired, although those close to the judge say that he left the bench reluctantly. You see, Judge Delisle did not leave his position because of age or desire, but instead because he had told several people that he was doing so in order to take care of his ill wife, of which he would later shoot in the head. Only 2 years before retirement, his wife had suffered a massive stroke that left one side of her body paralyzed, forcing her into a wheelchair from then on. A later hip fracture, months before the murder, would only exacerbate her declining condition. But by the tail end of 2009, not even a year into caring for his wife full-time, everything would change when a call came into the Quebec City Police Department about a woman who had taken her own life. The initial investigation indicated that the judge's wife had died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head, and it is easy to see why the police did not assume otherwise, because they were dealing with a top judge from within the community. But while the police and investigators may have given the judge, essentially one of their own, a break, a later autopsy of his wife's body would reveal new information regarding her death. This only coming after a lengthy follow-up investigation. The eventual trial that resulted was difficult for many reasons, because not only was it a high-profile case, but because many feared that it would be impossible for the former judge to get a fair trial due to his connections to the legal profession and his former position. But one thing the prosecution did have was forensic evidence, and they would introduce it and show that his wife, because of her condition, would have been unable to hold the weapon, let alone fire, the shot that killed her. The prosecution would also bring up the fact that the weapon used in the murder was unregistered, something shocking for a person well versed in the law, as well as being legally able to register and own a weapon. The prosecution would suggest that the judge had intended to use the gun to murder his wife, while minimizing the trace of owning a firearm and pinning the murder on his wife as suicide. The defense had an uphill battle, but things would only get worse when the prosecution claimed that the judge killed his ailing wife in order to avoid a costly divorce. You see, the judge was in the midst of an affair with a former secretary, his mistress even testifying that she was all ready to move in with the judge only a few days before he was arrested for the murder of his wife. She noted that the pair were simply friends at first, but would also state that her feelings for the judge evolved into something more, only months before his wife's stroke in 2007. And if things could not get worse for the judge and his defense team, another point the prosecution would hammer home was the evidence of a black smudge that was found on the backside of his wife's left hand during the initial investigation. This turned out to be gunshot residue, and it was noted that the spot in which it was found was very odd for someone committing suicide. The prosecution would suggest that this happened when his wife was attempting to defend herself from her husband as he was shooting her. Judge Delisle would eventually be convicted of first-degree murder, even though the judge maintained his innocence and stuck to the idea that his sick wife killed herself. The choice to pin first-degree murder on the judge, and not a lesser charge, a deciding factor in him getting a life sentence, was that they showed the judge was planning a new life with his mistress leading up to the murder. After the trial, Judge Delisle's defense team would claim that there had been procedural errors that had led to the guilty verdict, but a later 41-page report failed to produce any evidence that the ruling was unreasonable. Judge Delisle would later lose an appeal, and after, begin more openly speaking on the case, and in a 2015 televised jailhouse interview, he denied that he killed his wife, but did say that he helped her take her own life by leaving the loaded gun for her to use. You see, the judge never testified during his trial, and his new lawyer wants him to take the stand. With this new information about the death of his wife, the Justice Department launched a criminal conviction review of the judge's case. This is only taken when new information is provided. But at this time, the judge still sits in jail. But at a bail hearing, Delisle's son and his former legal partner argued for his release, saying they have no doubt that he is innocent and that he would never have killed his wife.